Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order council meeting of September 8th, 2025. Can everyone that can please rise for the playing of the national anthem? Niagara Region and Grimsby are situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattaway-Wendourong, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara and the town of Grimsby stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest? Seeing none, I would like to propose amending the order of the agenda to consider Councillor Vardy's notice of motion during the adoption of previous minutes. Can I have a mover and seconder to approve the agenda as amended? Councillor Vardy, Councillor Bradzi. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Bradzi. Resolved that the agenda for the September 8th council meeting be approved as amended. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, we have chair's reports. Councillor Davoli, can you please give your chair's report?
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. The Finance Committee met on Thursday, August 28th, and these were the issues that we discussed that evening. Under agenda item 5, we were looking for some more information about the GDAC Business Ambassador Inauguration Dinner, and asked that a staff report come to council at this evening's meeting, which it is now on the agenda, and there is a report. The next significant item was to review the work plan. We have a work plan that lays out by month our terms of reference, and as we deal with them, it highlights which months we'll be dealing with all of the items. So we reviewed that work plan as presented by our staff, and are also asking council to direct staff to invite representatives from Grimsby Power to attend a future Finance Committee meeting to provide a financial year-to-date and operational update on that. I'd like to just give council some context for why that request came up. The terms of reference of the Finance Committee are to deal with matters of risk, financial planning, long-term sustainability of our finances, and pardon me, the committee has reviewed the external investments that are owned by the town over the number of months and has now turned its attention to the internal investment, which is namely the investment in our government business enterprises of Niagara Power and Grimsby Power. And so we are asking that they come and meet with the Finance Committee. And as you will recall, under the terms of reference, it also lists NPI and GPI under the Finance Committee's terms of reference. And so we are asking that they come and meet with the committee, and I will say in accordance with the shareholder agreement that we have. The second item that the Finance Committee, and I will say sort of agonized about, but has to do with the results, which will eventually be coming on the valuation of Grimsby Power. And the committee is aware and that the report that will come from that they have now been informed that it will be coming to council in closed session. And I will say that the committee totally understands why it would come in closed session, whether it is to finance or to council. They are totally understand and are in agreement with that, but did ask to have staff bring a report back to the committee to help explain why or why not the Finance Committee may or may not go into closed session to review such matters as well. As is usual, under our agenda, we always have an update on the Peach King Center expansion and the costs and how we're doing compared to budget, and all is still online there, in line. We reviewed the biannual procurement report, which comes to us. A significant item was the library budget realignment. There was a quite detailed report, and really what the recommendation from staff is to align the budget with where the operational responsibility is. And then related to that, of course, are the reserves. There are reserves for capital items. So because the staff in the Community Services Department is responsible for some of those matters, then those reserves that match it will also be, I'll say, reclassified. There was some minor tweaking of our reserve policy having to do with funding targets. We had representatives as well for a second time from the Firemark Agency. We discussed at length the report because it had also been presented at a previous meeting and then came again to the committee, had questions for the representative, but especially for the fire chief, who is our joint fire chief. And this particular method of billing has been used in the town of Lincoln for quite some time. And I will say, mildly successful. It doesn't bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars, but every little bit helps to sort of alleviate the pressure on the ratepayers. The last item on the agenda was the amendment to the development charges bylaw. There is a date that it needs to be reviewed by, but just because of all the other things that are on staff's plate at the moment, and there are lots. When you think about every single department, the transportation master plan, the official plan, and all the budget that we have moved up and all those things, staff had asked if we would defer that study until later. And as such, then the expiration date on that bylaw needs to be amended. And that concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Councillor DeVoy. Seeing no questions, Councillor Vardy has a notice of motion to reconsider a decision from the previous council minutes, and there is a staff memo on the agenda regarding a motion from Finance Committee minutes. Prior to discussing those matters, can I have a mover and seconder to approve the balance of the minutes? Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor DeFlavio. All in favor? And that's carried. Councillor Vardy has moved to suspend the rules of procedure to discuss her notice of motion. A two-thirds majority is required to waive the rules to discuss tonight and reconsider the decision. So it's moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that sections 10.82C and 13.1 of the rules of procedure be temporarily suspended by an affirmative vote of two-thirds to discuss Councillor Vardy's notice of motion. To reconsider council remuneration. So I guess we'll use e-scribe. No, it has to be suspended first before we can speak. This is just for the two-thirds to get it on the floor for today. Councillor Frakes, what is your vote?
Yes.
That's carried. All right, Councillor Barty has moved and Councillor Frake has seconded. The notice of motion is now on the floor for discussion. Are there any questions or comments from council? Councillor Vardy.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. You know, upon some comments that I've received and giving it some sober second thought, not that I wasn't sober when I first voted in favor of this, I've been thinking that with respect to this being a part-time job, very few part-time jobs would ever offer a health benefit. So I think we should take that off the table. And secondly, you know, given how we've had several years of sort of high tax increases, although most of them come from the region, not from Grimsby, but, you know, the taxpayer sort of ends up the same. And there's some sensitivity about, you know, what things are costing for sure, and understandably so. So I thought if we just lowered the mean instead of at a 60th percentile, we just went to a 50th percentile. You know, I do think councillors deserve to get paid for their work and to get a fair pay, and this would position us right in the middle. So half of councillors would make, of towns similar to us, would make more than us, and then the other half would make the same or less than us. So I felt that it was a fair rethink, and I hope that my colleagues will also consider this. Thank you.
Councillor Howe.
Thank you, through you, Chair. On the first comment, yeah, the health account or whatever it was deemed, yes, disappears. I know why it was put in there, but I just didn't see that it fit for what we do for our job, et cetera. The other part of it, I'm probably going to, I am disagreeing with it. I think we should leave it at, there was a very specific process that they went through to come up with that percentile and the numbers. I'm comfortable with it. I know that any time any council deals with remuneration, back in the 90s when we were making 12 grand a year, trust me, every time that it came up, there was always a process and people jawing at you, and I get it. I can take it. But, you know, it's not a great one, but there was a process. So I won't support changing the dollar amount. I support dropping the health account.
Councillor DeVole.
Mayor Jordan, thank you. I guess at the end of the day, you know, we're really talking about the value that is assigned to the work that we do, and it's reflected in the compensation to each of us. And so it is a value decision at the end. We tried to make it as impartial as we could by having a third-party consultant go through a process and look at what other municipalities pay. And I think we landed in a reasonable place. I think the difficult part that each of us have had to agonize over is that any time elected officials vote about having a pay increase, even if it is for the next council term and not for us directly, people always will complain. Whether we're talking the federal government, the provincial government, the municipal government, any level of government, the comments are always the same. You know, politicians, they don't work hard enough and they're overpaid. But I can tell you, having sat in this chair for the last 3 years now, I don't believe that we are that we are overpaid by any means. And this study was done in a very independent way by a consultant, and I think it landed in a fair place. So I will say that I agree. You know what? Whether it be this or the one that we agreed to the other night, at the end of the day, it's fine. Either of them are fine. But I do think that what we voted on previously was fine. I'm a bit concerned that we're already talking about it again tonight. I think that only kind of prolongs the topic for all of us. And I would have preferred to have seen it weighted and be set aside for the next meetings. If we're going to give some sober second thought, then I think another week or 2 weeks would have been fine. I also agree that the healthcare spending account, I'm neither here nor there on it. If we wish to do away with it, I'm fine with that too.
Councillor Frake.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Yeah, I do echo Councillor Vardy's sentiments. I certainly have no issue with eliminating the health insurance of $1,000 out of this particular proposal. And, we're either doing this job because it's a part-time job. If you're doing a full-time job and you're doing it now and you do this as a part-time job, then it's probably just supplementing your pay. If you're doing it because you're retired and you have lots of time in your hands, it's a different situation. So we're doing it for different reasons. So I'm quite happy to go with I think it was 60% quartile that Councillor Vardy was proposing. It makes sense to me. As I said, I've said this before. I mean, I don't really need this, but I mean, looking forward, and people who do run for office, they have to understand that if you're running, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So don't run if you don't like to put in the hours. And I put in a lot of hours into this job, and I cover a lot of the costs myself. So I have no issue with cutting it back, and I understand what Councillor Vardy was also saying, that we're going through tough times, the inflation rise, and the economy's all that great, and so on and so forth. So I have no problem going backwards here and retracting what we originally thought, and I go along with it. That's why I seconded his motion. So I'm still on that page. That's it for me. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Korsanji.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm totally fine with cutting out the health benefit. I struggle with the 60 versus the 50. I know it's not a big difference, but what I struggle with is committees. So I wouldn't want to go with 60 and then in the next term they get rid of committees, because then I feel like, you know what I mean? Maybe you didn't need to go up to 60. But with committees and the amount of work that committees are, I do feel the value at the 60. So I'm really torn on that. Like, I think there's no way to enforce committees in the next council, but I do really see how that kind of weighs on my decision on this.
Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. I'm going to actually quite straight for straight agree with Councillor Howe. I think the health benefits has got to be eliminated. But with all due respect to Councillor Vardy, with drawing back to 50%, it's kind of, I mean, we did commission a consultant to bring these numbers to us. So I kind of feel like we should either go with the consultant or not go with the consultant. And that's just my thoughts.
Councillor Sharwa.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. I think my colleagues have all raised some good points, and I would agree with Councillor Bradsey on that point, and Councillor Howe. If we are reducing the $1,000 pay, I'd like to split this motion and make it $1,000 pay, but keep the 60%. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Vardy.
Excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'd just like to add, for me, and knowing what people put in around the table, I'm happy with, if it's a value proposition, I'm happy with going above 60%. I'm just trying to be reflective of the economy right now. The other thing is we also get a cost of living expense. And I know as a federal government worker, I don't know how many years, maybe 10 or 15, that I went without a cost of living. The only way to make more money was to get promoted. So I do think we are getting some additional. And I just want to say again, it's not, I know Councillor DeVoley said, the value. I mean, I think the value of what we do is really important. And it's a very odd dilemma because you want to be, nobody's doing it for the money, but you also want to recognize that there's a value to the work that we do. And I also, have a feeling about committees too. And when I raised that with the clerk, I was told that you'd be coming back with something later on about committees, because my own personal feeling is if you're not taking on your full committee load, you shouldn't get paid at all. So that's just I sit on 4 committees. So I think if you're not doing your committee load, your base pay should reflect it and basically not get your base pay. So I just want to put that out there, that it's not a reflection of the value of our work, but it's really just trying to be sensitive to the fact that people are in a tight situation these days. And we've had a lot of people are very sensitive about their tax sites, they're sensitive about their water bills, they're sensitive about all of these things. So I'm just trying to be responsive in some way to our community. So thank you.
Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a comment. I have a question. So can somebody clarify for me what the difference between the 60th percentile and 50th percentile is on a yearly councillor's salary, and how that, so, how much are we talking? Because we're talking about a raise, right? So what's the difference in the raise?
Yeah, the clerk's looking that up for you now.
Yeah, if you give me one moment, I can just share the screen. Tony, did you want to speak to it? I was just going to share.
Yeah, I was going to say that the difference at the 50th percentile, like you have there on the screen. So for the mayor, rather than 57,589, it would be 54,129. Just scroll over a bit. So where it says market P60 is what was originally proposed, where it says market median is what's proposed under the notice of motion. And similarly for councillors, it's the line right below. Rather than 28,643, it would be 25,145.
Councillor DeVoley, you have a question.
If I may add to the question too, in the proposal tonight in the notice of motion, it talks about a 2% inflation for 2026. But typically council's compensation has increased in accordance with the staff agreement that we have with them. And I don't know whether that's what the 2% for 2026 is what we have in the staff agreement or not. Can someone tell me if that is the case?
Through the mayor, I can answer that. Yes, that's the case. The 2% is what's planned for staff as well.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Tony, for that information. So I'm fine with the 50th percentile. I was opposed to the $1,000 health benefit to begin with. I think either you provide health care and full benefits, or you don't provide them at all. The $1,000 doesn't make any sense to me. If this is a job that we believe is the type of job that warrants health benefits, then it should be health benefits, the same health benefits that employees get. And otherwise, the $1,000 should just be stricken. So I think it's kind of a wishy-washy way of doing things, giving a $1,000 account. I think that, if in the long run, future councils decide that, and I've brought up benefits in the past. I've never needed them because I have them through work, but there are people who are living without benefits, and I understand the importance of that. I understand how important benefits are for people, whether it's dental or pharmaceutical, any kinds of benefits. Those are important, but a $1,000 account is not going to cover that. So it's the worst of both worlds, in my opinion. I think, it looks like you're getting a health benefit, but you're not really. So let's just strike it and if people want to provide benefits in the future, they can do that. So I'm fine with 50th percentile and the striking of the $1,000.
Councillor DeVoley.
Councillor Sharwa had asked if we could break it into two separate votes, and I would second that amendment.
No.
Anyone can split the vote.
Anyone can split the vote. I kept you. I do agree with I kept you and Councillor Frake as the movers and seconders, so we have it already split. So if we're ready, we can vote on that now. All right, so I'll read the first section of the resolution. Moved by Councillor Vardy, seconded by Councillor Frake. Resolved that Council reconsider Resolution 25-147 and the Council remuneration percentile target be changed from P60 to P50, and that the Mayor's annual base pay be set at $54,129 effective for the new term of council, and this amount be adjusted for 2% inflation for 2026, $55,212, and that Councilor annual base pay be set at $25,145 effective for new term of council, and this amount be adjusted for 2% inflation for 2026 to $25,648. Recorded vote on e-scribe.
We are splitting it.
The healthcare is separate. Yeah. It's changing it from 60th percentile to 50th percentile. Councillor Frake?
Yes.
All right, so that's defeated. Up next, moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that Council reconsider Resolution 25-148 and that the healthcare spending amount or account in the amount of $1,000 be eliminated. E-scribe. Councillor Frake?
Yes.
And that's carried. All right. Can I have a mover and seconder to approve the remaining resolutions from the council minutes? Moved by Councillor Sharwa, second by Councillor Howe. Moved by Councillor Sharwa, second by Councillor Howe. Resolved that resolutions C 25-147 and C 25-148 from the council minutes of August 11th, 2025 be approved as amended. All in favor? And that's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the staff memo on the GPI valuation? Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Bradzi. Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Bradzi. Resolved that the staff memo on the Grimsby Power Incorporated valuation be received. All in favor?
She wants to speak.
All right, Councillor DeVoli, you'd like to speak on that?
If I could, please. So again, I guess I just wanted to repeat and expand upon something that I said earlier while we were going through the finance minutes, that the Finance Committee totally supports that this information be received and closed, and does understand why it would be done that way. So totally in agreement with the clerk's report. But just to, and of course it has already been passed, but we did just ask for a report and an explanation from staff as to why the Finance Committee members, of which really we're talking about the 3 lay members, would always be excluded from knowing what the result is of this work. And so I guess with the passing of the Finance Committee minutes, that still stands, and we look forward to understanding more about how this process works.
Through the chair, so this would be the report back to the Finance Committee. According to legal counsel and in accordance with the shareholders agreement, the valuation is coming to council in their role as stakeholders. When that information comes, if council would like to vote in terms of who would have access to that, it's something that could be discussed, but our legal counsel was that the valuation comes to council directly as stakeholders.
Councillor DeVoli.
I'm asking on behalf of the Finance Committee members then as to why, and I will, and certainly it's something that we can have the clerk attend and at the Finance Committee to explain to everyone there. I think the part that I struggle with is that the terms of reference clearly say to the Finance Committee that, you know, it's your job, Finance Committee, to deal with risk, which is what ownership of any investments involves. That it's the Finance Committee's job to deal with financial planning, long-term sustainability, to review the investments and so on. And this asset that we have, the investment in the government business enterprises, which is NPI and GPI, is the 3rd largest asset and has significant impact on all the things that I just said that are the responsibility of the Finance Committee. And so I think, you know, by excluding, really just excluding the 3 lay members, we are significantly putting limitations on how they can help us, how they can provide advice to council in all of this. And so I realize that the Municipal Act, and I'm not debating what legal counsel has told us, but the Municipal Act and many pieces of legislation always talk about council, that the different pieces of legislation never envision that they don't talk about standing committees or the type of governance, you know, committee of the whole or things like that. Council decided, and this council decided, and I do agree with it, to delegate those responsibilities to that committee. And the committee's interested in carrying out its responsibilities. So perhaps if we could have some more discussion at the Finance Committee about this as to the why or the wherefore, they would really appreciate that.
Sorry.
Through the chair, I can't discuss legal matters in public at committee meetings, so it wouldn't be something I'm able to take to them. We can discuss it in council further if there's a notice of motion, but it's not something I can comment on in public.
Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. This one was one, I agree with Councillor DeVoli. This is one that was new to me because we'd had committees in the past and we had closed sessions for, I'm going to use the example that I remember best, and that is the Planning Committee, because I was a member of the Planning Committee and the chair of the Planning Committee for several years. And we had closed sessions because there were oftentimes land-related issues that required us to go into closed session as a committee. The members of that committee, as long as the committee went into a closed session for legal, in a legal manner, and that is following the rules of the Municipal Act, those committee members were able to be part of that meeting. They were subject to the same rules of confidentiality that council was. I know that there is no elected responsibility that goes with that, but there is a legal responsibility that goes with it, and people sign the confidentiality, I believe, when they became members of the committee. They were brought in and trained on that. And if not, then they should be asked to sign that type of confidentiality. And if we are having committees, those committees should be part of, these types of reports should go to the relevant committee. So if this was related to Public Works, I would want it to go to Public Works. I didn't agree with the valuation. I don't want you to misunderstand me. I didn't think that it was necessary, and we had one that had been done recently. But I do agree with the committee system, and I think that if we do have the committee system, it should be done in a manner that makes it relevant. So.
Go ahead, Tori.
Through the mayor, it's because council is the stakeholders of GPI and not the finance committee. So in accordance with the shareholder agreement, legal counsel has advised that it come direct to council.
Councillor Brads.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. Would it be possible to suggest that the members of the Finance Committee join council in closed session as maybe like an advisory consultant role? Or
Through the mayor, they are not shareholders of GPI. It is only council.
Councillor Vardy.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. From my perspective, the Finance Committee has done its due diligence by saying this piece of financial work should be undertaken. They've done their duty. And I think the rest of it, when we come to look at it, it's our duty. And so I'm fine with the way it is.
All right, seeing no further questions, moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Bradsey, resolved that the staff memo on the Grimsby Power Incorporated valuation be received. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, can I have a mover and seconder to get the staff memo on the business ambassador inauguration dinner on the floor for discussion prior to approving the endorsement package? Need a mover and seconder? Councillor Bradsey. Seconder, Councillor Howe. Questions from council? Councillor DeVoli.
I have a few questions and then some overall comments. So I'll start with my questions first. One, we would just, the Finance Committee talked about this extensively too, and that's why they asked for more details about it. And I'm going to kind of read off some of my questions as in, who is hosting it, and that's probably a given. I assume it's the town of Grimsby, who has been invited. I'm not sure if it's a private or a public event or private event by invitation. Has the committee, because we didn't see it ever attached, actually seen a budget of what is involved in this event? And then I would just like to talk about the recommendation on the net proceeds. Back when we first became councillors, one of the first things we agonized about and came up with was a policy. We call it the Community Development Grant. And so it is a way that we have to actually give money out to organizations in the town. There is a criteria to apply, there's a vetting process, there's follow-up to make sure that the monies are spent appropriately. And we actually have two programs. That is our larger one, but and then Community Services runs a smaller one too with much smaller dollars in it. At this time, we also have the Grimsby Library, Art Gallery, and Museum that are trying to plan their annual fundraising events, and they go through the agonizing process in their budget. They actually have a line for donations, and it could encompass fundraising as well. And so at this point in time, the two events are in a bit of a conflict, I will say, because one is now, and the first one is the ECDEV Gala, and then we have the GLAM, as they call it, that's its acronym, happening so close, just 6 weeks after that. And I would say, from talking to those involved in it, it is making it hard for them to get it off the ground, to get sponsorships, to get donations and things like that. So I would like to suggest that, the ECDEV Gala continue. We would just like a few more pieces of information this evening from those involved. But I would like to recommend that the net proceeds be split 4 ways, basically between McNally, the library, the art gallery, and the museum. And at that point in time, that it may make it much easier for those 3 that are the internal ones. There is even talk that, maybe they should postpone it until the spring and sort of get farther away from this event, which is quite prestigious and getting a lot of sponsorships for it. So if I could perhaps circle around to my first set of questions, and perhaps if Mr. Miele is here and could answer them for us, that would be great.
Mayor, thank you for the questions. The host is through GDAC. Several months ago, there was a full discussion on undertaking such an event. And I guess since January or February, we've been talking about what would it look like. And the business community in general decided to celebrate Grimsby and bring everything together in terms of the business community in particular, which goes to the next point, who was invited. Due to the limited space available in the venue, we can only have 18 tables, and it's already been sold out, by the way. But that's approximately 150 people that we could accommodate. So while it is a public business event, there was only a certain amount of people that we could accommodate. In terms of the budget, this is a revenue neutral event. No taxpayers' dollars are being used to put on the event. They are the main costs associated with the event is obviously the food related to it, and some other elements which are minor in nature, like marketing and so forth. The revenues are from the business community by purchasing tables, most of which obviously is towards the net proceeds will go towards the McNally. That's what was decided at GDAC, because that's what the business community wanted to see most of, understanding what the council said about the policy and the programs associated with the proceeds. But that's basically it, unless there's something else that I missed.
If I could, the question was who was invited, as in, was it by private invitation? Was it advertised publicly? And what is the actual budget? You didn't address that specifically.
The invitation went to over 150 businesses in our community and beyond. They may be doing business in our community, but don't really reside here in terms of their head office. But there's about 150 or so, plus or minus, businesses that were invited. In terms of the budget, no, there was no marketing done. in terms of advertising in the local newspaper or the social media or anything like that. In terms of the budget, I can bring it up to what I think. Yeah, there's about 18 tables, and we have some live auctions, some silent auctions. We have donated prizes that we're gathering, and we estimate approximately $90,000 or so. That will be as part of the income ledger. The expenditures will be maybe about 40,000, 45,000.
Go ahead, Councillor DeVoley.
And just a follow-up question to all of that. The other day, you kindly sent out an email inviting all of council and senior staff to it, and invited us, but not our partners, and that's understandable. And when I say not our partners, you did invite our partners, but that we would be attending for free, that if we wish to come with a partner, of course, there would be a ticket price of $200. And I just want to make a point of raising that, and also this refer to something you had said earlier, that, you know, there is no cost to the municipality. But there's always a cost, right? Even offering it for free to councillors and senior staff means there's still a cost, right? Staff time involved in organizing these things, those are costs. We just don't always keep track of them so succinctly. But I would like to share with you, Mr. Miele, that much as I appreciate your generous offer of a free ticket, if I am able to attend, I would like to publicly state that I would pay for my own ticket. More than happy to do so, and I really, you know, don't feel it's something that the public needs to pay for me to attend an event like that. I'm quite able to do so on my own, so thank you for the invitation. What I would also like to suggest is that when the event is over, that there be a summary summarizing the revenues and expenses from it that I assume you'll be providing to your GDAC committee, and that will then come to council as well. That would be much appreciated.
Councillor Frake.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I just want to address a couple of things. First of all, in terms of the GLAM, which includes the museum and the art gallery and the library, that's a totally different event. It's an event that's built around culture, totally different audience, totally different, for the most part, totally different donors. This is a business event. It's a business event. It's not a public event. It's not a picnic. It's not a tea party. It's not a barbecue in the park. This is for the business community. That's what GDAC does. We're responsible for bringing the business community together. And this is what we're doing with this event. It's a networking opportunity, but there's a lot of other things going on as well. So this is totally self-funded. We're not asking any money from the town or from the taxpayer. However, having said that, all of the attendees, the business folks, are big taxpayers as well in this community. So when we have this kind of event, they're also taxpayers before they even come to pay for this event. And when we did the general consensus from the business community is that we know that McNally House needs a lot of money still to ensure they finish the expansion to their facility. So we would really appreciate it if all the money we're paying into this event ended up at McNally House. McNally House is also prepared to volunteer some time and volunteers to this event. So, you know, I jotted down a whole bunch of things here, which this particular event's all about. First of all, we get a chance to showcase Grimsby as a progressive leader in the economic business community across Ontario and Canada. The guest speaker for that event, this event, is the CEO and president of the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. So we've gotten a lot of interest from the business community at the highest level. It brings the business community together to network with each other and meet with with officials, with councillors if they want to come. If you want to pay, that's great, fantastic, and get to know others and promote future investments in the community. It's a chance for us to thank our current business investors, and there's quite a few of them there, and welcome them to the new investors who have chosen Grimsby to set up their businesses, to employ people, pay taxes, and create a commerce for the community. This is not just some fly-by-night kind of event. There's a lot more to it. We wanted to officially open the new Camiso Estate Winery on the same night because Mr. Camiso wanted us to cut the ribbon for the opening of his facility. So would you mind doing that on the night off? Absolutely. And Camiso is a stalwart in this town and a very key part of some of our tourism strategies. We wanted to introduce the business ambassador, but that wasn't the key thing. I do apologize because it was a bit confusing. We started out with a business ambassador dinner, but we changed our mind because it was too specific. We wanted to broaden it, so that's why we ended up calling it the Economic Gala. We wanted to showcase the many dedicated businesses who have made Grimsby their home for doing business locally, regionally, and beyond. And finally, it was an opportunity for the town of Grimsby and Grimsby's business community to show their financial and moral support for a very precious McNally House Hospice, which offers a vital service to growing families, for grieving families and those at end of life. I think that this money going to McNally House is really, really important. They're $1.5 million short for the expansion. It's a very important facility in this town, and I think we should all row in behind it and find out how we can support this and not start picking it apart. So let's move on with this thing. It's totally above board. We've documented everything. Everything is within the rules of accounting, and we've spoken with accounting about this. So we're doing all the right things. All we want now is for council to say, "Great, guys, let's move ahead. Let's do it. What can we do to help?" Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Bradzi.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. I just wanted to touch on the point of maybe changing the benefactors to the event. I think that I was there when GDAC quite unanimously suggested that McNally had the most urgent need with their expansion. But 3 weeks out from this event, I don't think we should be going down the road to change the main sponsors. There's been big name sponsors put up large dollars with the understanding that it's going to McNally. So to change that now, to me, is a little disingenuous. So I support this as is, and I think this is going to be a great event.
And I just want to comment further on this. Since Grimsby has been really the only contributor in West Niagara, but let's face it, McNally House is a West Niagara institution. It's part of the campus of care at West Lincoln Memorial Hospital. And I think we, as the town of Grimsby, should be challenging West Lincoln and Lincoln to be putting their fair share of dollars and even matching our dollars that we have put in, because we've had crickets from Lincoln and West Lincoln as far as McNally House fundraising goes by the municipality. So, Councillor Vardy, you had to speak.
Thank you. My understanding is you've gone beyond just Grimsby in terms of businesses, but businesses that would have an interest in Grimsby, but also supporting the sort of community that McNally serves, and I think that given that this event and tables were sold predicated on funds going to McNally House, it would really be inappropriate to do something else. If we want to move the GLAM event to the spring, I think that's fine if people are feeling uncomfortable that, but I think that it would be really inappropriate to sort of invite businesses, because they've been invited as businesses, not as individuals, where the GLAM event is a public individual event. I just think that it would be really inappropriate to say, oh, well, we've decided that we're going to take a chunk of this for ourselves, when this was not how this was conceived, nor, I will say, sold to the business community.
Is there a motion on the floor?
And if I may, can I say, this is a great way to invite other communities to do their part to see what you can do to raise funds for McNally. So certainly, we've gone out there, we've done something, and at the same time, we're serving our own purpose. I know Councillor DeVoley talked about staff time, but this is what staff are supposed to be doing. This is what this staff is supposed to be doing, which is raising the profile of business, making Grimsby look like an attractive place to do business. So we got more people, building business. Like, we all know that our tax structure is a huge imbalance. I mean, it should be 75-25, and I think we're, between residential taxes and business taxes. If we want to help the taxpayers of this community, we need more business here because they pay more tax when they're here, and we'll get a better balance instead of roughly, 85, 15. If we had something, something more like or 90-10, something like that. So then, we're better off if we can try and, tip those scales. So we're getting businesses come here and helping to support, and that helps residents because helps them doubly because it helps the expansion of McNally, which serves them, and it also helps them in the future to, to cut their taxes or at least to reduce the, the increases. So we get a better balance. So that's all I want to say.
All right. Seeing no further questions, we have a resolution on the floor. Moved by Councillor Bradsey, second by Councillor Howe. Resolved that staff memo on the Business Ambassador inauguration dinner be received and that the GDAC Council endorsement package dated August 7th, 2025 be approved. All in favor? And that's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the board minutes? Moved by Councillor Corstangi, seconded by Councillor DeFlavio. Moved by Councillor Corstangi, seconded by Councillor DeFlavio. Resolved that the following board minutes be received. Committee of Adjustment, July 15th, 2025. GDAC, August 7th, 2025. And Grimsby Downtown BIA, August 13th, 2025. All in favor? And that's carried. Are there any announcements this evening? Well, just one that's very current right now. Councillor Frey, Councillor Bradsey, myself, CAO Kim, we just got back from the West Lincoln, annual West Lincoln Memorial Hospital golf tournament. Sorry we had to come to a council meeting instead of dinner, but it was really a good time had by all, and really pushing the hospital past the finish line, and with a confirmed opening date now of November 24th, 2025. It's really exciting that we're getting to the finish line. So I think that's a pretty good announcement. Thank you. Oh, yes, and also coming up September 16th to 20th is the International Plowing Match. It hasn't been in Niagara for 100 years. Last time was, I believe, 1924, where it was in Niagara. And so it is in West Lincoln, just across the Mud Street border. So it's very close to Grimsby. Certainly on the 16th, every member of Parliament in the provincial legislature, the legislature is actually closed. It's the only day of the year it does close. When they are in session, they will all be here. So if we need all the public out, if you want to talk to your MPPs from all over Ontario, it's a really good place to be. It's going to be a really exciting event, and it is something that we really should embrace and take advantage of getting down to the West Lincoln Fairgrounds to see this once-in-a-lifetime event for Niagara. It's the 16th to the 20th. The legislature's closed on the 16th, and all the MPPs, including the Premier, will be at the West Niagara Fairgrounds, stomping grapes, driving tractors and doing a lot of other things, so. Can I have a mover and seconder for the consent report? Moved by Councillor Corstangi, second by Councillor Howe. Moved by Councillor Corstangi, second by Councillor Howe. Resolved that council hereby approves the following item and that the consent item be approved on the recommendations as contained therein. PA 2529, that report PA 2529, heritage designation 10 Mountain Street, 43 Main Street East, and 242 Main Street East, dated September 8th, 2025, be received, and that council proceed with the passing of the designation bylaws for the properties at 10 Mountain Street, 43 Main Street East, and 242 Main Street East. All in favor? That's carried. Councillor Brazzi has moved and Councillor DeFlavio has seconded the notice of motion supporting the Niagara GTA corridor. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Brazzi, did you want to speak on it?
Certainly. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I don't want to have this motion specifically tie onto the recent events where we saw the highway shut down and the gridlock through Grimsby. I want to kind of, for those who aren't sure what the Niagara to GTA corridor is, it's been known as the Mid-Peninsula Corridor for longer than I think I've been alive. So really, I think what I'm trying to do with this motion is to, support the region having it into their transportation master plan, and as well as to say, out here in West Niagara, Stony Creek, Lincoln, we are choked from the QEW, and we would certainly be relieved from second quarter up on the mountain. We've seen this summer what even basic maintenance as shave and pave has done to the highway, even at night times, and traffic that comes off into our residential neighborhoods. But then even if you go back and look at service roads, the service roads aren't continuous through Grimsby. They do veer through residential subdivisions. So there's a lot of major underlying problems, but I think us as a council, if we can come together and say, when it comes to traffic, we are choked in here in the west end of Niagara, and support it within the Niagara region, and then circulate it to other municipalities. Like just recently, actually at AMO, chatting with councillors from Hamilton, Brantford, Burlington, even, especially all around Niagara. It seems like this is long overdue, and it's something that even if we were to all start now, is probably going to take decades. So I think that we should push this as not a long-term future need, but this is a need that really needs to get going now.
Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor. Further to Councillor Bradley's comments, I see this as similar to some of the other discussions we've had regarding GO Transit. I understand the economic importance of Toronto in Ontario, but Toronto is not the only city in Ontario. Despite the fact that Toronto is not the only city in Ontario, a Toronto-centric approach to all infrastructure has been one that has existed in Ontario for my entire lifetime. Everything revolves around Toronto, and because of that, everything has to revolve around Toronto. And so I'm going to give you an example, one that comes up in my life all the time, and that is, I have a child that goes to the University of Waterloo. The Waterloo area has a population of more than 500,000 people. The area of Hamilton has a population of more than 500,000 people. There is no highway between Waterloo and Hamilton. I cannot think of another two municipalities in North America of that size that don't have a highway between them. But we're building a highway in Ontario to nowhere north of Toronto. We're building highways that there's no clear need for, when we know that the Highway 6 has been called Highway of Death since I was a child, going between Hamilton and Waterloo. I see the Mid-Penn corridor as a connection between the Waterloo region and Buffalo, as a way of connecting Brantford, Waterloo, Hamilton, and Niagara in one continuous motion. It's not, for me, as much about development as it is about the logic of where the future is in Ontario. It's a large area of land. Much of it is not great farmland above the escarpment. So it's a place where logical future growth probably will happen. Even without that future growth, as Councilor Bradley already mentioned, there is no space for expansion of the QEW. You could drive down the QEW. The bridges were redone in the last 10 years. They were done by the previous Liberal government. The overpasses have all been redone, and there is no capacity for further widening of the QEW. We're there. We're at its capacity. You could put in the one extra lane and get rid of shoulders, but that's it. So we need to find another route or find another way of transportation. So the same way that I think that the GO train should be transportation between Hamilton and Niagara, as much as it should be from Niagara to Toronto, I think that this is another way of looking at transportation in the Niagara region and this area and finding a link that is logical for the people, the million people that live between Hamilton and Niagara, rather than always looking at Toronto as the center of the universe in Ontario. So that's why I seconded Councillor Bradley's motion. I've had this discussion with councillors from other municipalities who have asked me to put them on this list of correspondence so that they can bring it up with their councils as well. I think it's time that we get this ball rolling. Thank you.
Councillor Frake.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Yeah, I don't think I could add much to the passion that Councillor DeFlavio just gave this particular motion. You know, 25, 30 years ago, there was a plan in place to put that corridor across the south part of the of the region, connecting the communities east and west. Never happened. It got canned. 25, 30 years later, here we are. It's kind of got pushed under the carpet. And we need to bring it back, and we need to really push this thing, and we need to let it be. I see this as part of what I would call the one piece of the holy trinity of transit. We've got the GO train. We've got to have the conventional transit system, and we need that corridor that's up on the south, connecting the communities across Ontario and Hamilton and so on and so forth. It's really, really important. It's slipped off the radar, and I'm really happy that we brought it back. And I think we should put a lot of emphasis on it and make sure that this particular motion and these discussions get to the right people in Queen's Park and in the region to put this on the top of the radar. It's really, really important. It's important for economic development. It's important for the people who come to live here. They want to be able to get back and forth from here to Toronto and beyond. Really, really important. So let's put this up as one of the three, as I say, parts of the Holy Trinity of transit. So let's get it going. I'm 100% in favor of this. Thank you.
Councillor Howe.
Through you, Mayor, listening to a fair amount of passion, you know, in respect to the QE. Yeah, I drive that QE. But why don't we get a little bit selfish and think about West Lincoln and think about an escarpment crossing, which directly is going to impact directly more of our residents than the QE. But yet, now this is, if we go put our voice to this, it's going to drop off. And the escarpment crossing is still in the EA process, but we can't take the foot off of it. And it is the one that most impacts everybody. And everybody's going to say, well, Don, you live on Mount Street. That's going to impact. Trust me, by the time that road is built, I'll be dead. Okay, so let's get it straight. But for the communities to have a positive, that's going to be bigger than worrying about the QE and having some stop and go.
Councillor Sharwa.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. I'd like to call the question.
All right. Moved by Councillor Bradzi, second by Councillor DeFlavio. Whereas the Queen Elizabeth Way, QEW, is the primary east-west transportation corridor through Niagara, and whereas the town of Grimsby is the gateway to Niagara with limited roadways traveling parallel, creating regional vulnerabilities and a bottleneck effect when incidents or delays occur on the QEW. And whereas transportation disruptions on the QEW result in congestion and gridlock across towns and the region, limits mobility for residents, businesses, and emergency services, and have direct economic and social costs on our community in Niagara. And whereas Canadian Center for Economic Analysis estimated the economic and social cost of congestion in Ontario in 2024 was $56.4 billion. And whereas the new corridor of the Niagara region has the potential to increase access to businesses along the new corridor and increase efficiency of the movement of people, goods, products, and services to market, all of which make Niagara more attractive to job-creating business investment and new residents looking to live and work in Niagara. And whereas a strategic corridor linking the rapidly growing Waterloo region, Hamilton, and Niagara region has the potential to strengthen economic ties between municipalities, creating an regional economic powerhouse and transportation connection serving over 2 million people, while reducing the bottlenecked effect on the QEW in Niagara, Hamilton, and the GTA. And whereas a new transportation corridor between Niagara and the GTA is critical for long-term regional connectivity, sustainable population growth, balanced infrastructure development, and economic development, therefore be it resolved that the Town of Grimsby and the Council express support for the inclusion of a new Niagara GTA corridor as part of the ongoing Region of Niagara's Transportation Master Plan. Be it further resolved that this motion be circulated to all municipalities, MPs, and MPPs, and the Provincial Minister of Infrastructure and Minister of Transportation, the Premier of Ontario, Councillor Jeff Beattie's office, Ward 10, Hamilton, the City of Hamilton, the City of Kitchener, the City of Waterloo, the City of Guelph, the City of Cambridge, the City of Brantford, and the Regional Municipality of Niagara, expressing our community's support for continued planning and investment in a Niagara GTA corridor as a transportation priority. All in favor? And that's carried. All right. Councillor Korstanji has noticed a motion. Can you please read your notice of motion, Councillor Korstanji?
Thank you, through Chair. Whereas the Grimsby Curling Club has been an integral part of the Grimsby community since 1951, providing recreational, social, and inclusive programming for residents of all ages and abilities, including a long-standing partnership with Special Olympics. And whereas the club is volunteer-run, has demonstrated significant membership growth from 370 to 440 registrants in the past season, including 55 youth participants, and continues to offer affordable access to curling whilst fostering healthy, active living and community connection. And whereas the club is in need of capital support for essential upgrades and accessibility improvements, but as a non-charitable organization cannot directly issue charitable tax receipts to support fundraising. And whereas the Niagara Community Foundation provides an established mechanism through donor-designated funds to support community organizations through charitable giving, legacy contributions, and endowments. And whereas the Grimsby Curling Club has requested that the Town of Grimsby consider acting as an intermediary to facilitate contributions to the Niagara Community Foundation for the purpose of capital improvements and accessibility upgrades. Therefore, be it resolved that Council directs staff to prepare a report on the process requirements and feasibility of the Town of Grimsby acting as an intermediary with the Niagara Community Foundation to support the fundraising and capital needs of the Grimsby Curling Club. Be it further resolved that the report includes options, implications, and recommendations for Council's consideration should Council wish to proceed with this request. I acknowledge that this notice of motion will be given consideration at the September 22nd, 2025 Council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Korstanji. Can I have a mover and seconder for the Prostate Cancer Awareness Month proclamation? Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Frake. Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Frake. Whereas September is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, a month dedicated to raising awareness, funding research, and supporting those living with prostate cancer. And whereas prostate cancer is the most common type of cancer to affect Canadian men, and whereas raising awareness for prostate cancer is one of the best ways to help people learn about signs, symptoms, and preventative screening, it also helps build communities and foster connections. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Jeff Jordan, do hereby proclaim September 2025 as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. All in favor? That's carried. Also, can I have a mover and seconder for the Rail Safety Week proclamation? Moved by Councillor Vardy, seconded by Councillor Bradzi. Moved by Councillor Vardy, seconded by Councillor Bradzi. Whereas Rail Safety Week is to be held across Canada from September 15th to 21st, 2025, and whereas 261 rail crossing and trespassing incidents occurred in Canada in 2024, resulting in 68 avoidable fatalities and 58 avoidable serious injuries, and whereas educating and informing the public about rail safety, reminding the public that railway rights-of-way are private property, enhancing public awareness of the dangers associated with highway, rail grade crossings, ensuring pedestrians and motorists are looking and listening while near railways and obeying the established traffic laws will reduce the number of avoidable fatalities and injuries caused by incidents involving trains and citizens. And whereas Operation Lifesaver is a public-private partnership whose aim is to work with the public rail industry, governments, Indigenous communities, police services, media, and others raise rail safety awareness. Whereas CN and Operation Lifesaver have requested City Council to adopt the resolution in support of its ongoing efforts to raise awareness, save lives, and prevent injuries in communities, including our municipality. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Jeff Jordan, do hereby proclaim September 15th to 21st, 2025 as Rail Safety Week. All in favor? And that's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the Niagara Transit Q2 statistics? Moved by Councillor Cristangi. Seconded by Councillor Davoli. Moved by Councillor Cristangi, seconded by Councillor Davoli. Resolved that the correspondence from Niagara Transit be received. All in favor? And that's carried. I have a mover and seconder to approve the bylaws.
We need to use this for the bylaws because it says amendment.
Okay. Councillor Davoli, Councillor Howe. Moved by Councillor Davoli, second by Councillor Howe. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaws 25-47 to 25-51 inclusive, and one that bylaw 25-50 be read a first time, considered and passed as amended, and that the remaining bylaws be read a first time, considered and passed. All in favor? That's carried. Next meeting of council is scheduled for September 22nd, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Can I now have a mover and seconder to meet in closed session to discuss the Downtown Reimagined Communication Strategy, RFP? Moved by Councillor Sharwa, second by Councillor Vardy. Moved by Councillor Sharwa, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved, the council meet in closed session under section 2392 of the Municipal Act, specifically regarding Downtown Reimagined Communication Strategy request for proposal pursuant to section 2392L. Or I, sorry. All in favor? And that's carried. All right, we're now back in open session. Can I have a mover and seconder for the closed session direction? Moved by Counselor Howe, second by Counselor Vardy. Moved by Counselor Howe, second by Counselor Vardy. Resolved that the direction provided in closed session regarding the Downtown Reimagined Communications Strategy request for proposal be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder for the confirming bylaw? Moved by Counselor Bradzi, second by Counselor DeFlavio. Moved by Counselor Bradzi, second by Counselor DeFlavio. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 25-52 and that same be read a first time, considered, and passed. All in favor? That's carried. Good night, everyone. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Have a good evening.